Hey everybody, welcome to It's a Metal Thing. Today I build a hydraulic kit for my Hossfeld Bender. Let's do it. All right, so I'm building a roll cage. I want to build a roll cage for my 61 Falcon Gasser. You can tune into the videos for that. I have this Hossfeld Bender. It's been in the family forever. It belonged to my father-in-law. He bought it in the late 70s, early 80s. He used it a lot for smaller stuff. Yard carts, building yard carts. Well, actually, this was bent on that. So we did some stuff back in the day, mostly 1 inch, inch and a quarter, I think was the biggest we ever ran. So anyway, this is 1 5/8", gonna be 083 chromoly. I thought I could bend it, but it ain't happening. So I'm building a hydraulic. My buddy had a cylinder, so I'm happy there. I got on somebody on Hossfeld, it's a Hossfeld website or whatever, but there's a guy that's got a bunch of Hossfeld videos, and he has a hydraulic bender. He was showing how he put the kit on, and I'm kind of just going off the video, kind of guessing on the measurements. So I know that he said something about this is 3/4 inch plate, 6 by 24. I think it might be a little long, but I'm gonna go with it. I can always cut it off. So anyway, it bolts in here, bolts between these two. This is 3/4 of an inch of a gap in here, so this 3/4 will fit nicely in here. So I need to do them at 2 holes in this plate right here. It's gonna match these. And then there's a hole up here and a hole back here. This is for the pivot point. There's a pivot rod that goes off this way. And then there's almost like a sawtooth mechanism that allows you to keep bending around, keep coming around. So I have this material here. For the pivot rod, I'm going to use 2 by 3/8. It doesn't need to be that strong. It has a pull on it, right? But there's no real twist or anything. It's just literally just a linear pull. So this will be plenty strong. There's going to be double-sided on this. You'll see that later. And then I also have some, over here, some 2.5 by 1/2 that I'm going to use to make the sawtooth part out of. It'll be thick enough to be able to put the little jag in it, and it'll be strong enough to where it can take the pressure from the hydraulic ram. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and lay this out, drill it out, and get it bolted in, and then kind of see where we're at from there. So I'm gonna do that next. Okay, here's my plate laid out. I got on the video and I was watching. This is obviously, it comes flush with this edge here. In the video, kind of flush right here, so it's about 2 inches back. This is, I don't know what it was, 6 3/8, 5/8, 6 5/8, something like that. Anyway, whatever that measurement is. So this is pretty straightforward, plus halfway, and that material's 2.5. Came in 1 1/4, came down 2 inches. Whatever this ended up being, I don't even remember. I can look real quick. You're gonna do your machine, you can measure it, but it ended up being 6 5/8. So those are pretty much set. These are 5/8 bolts, so that's no big deal. Now in the video, they got a 3/4 inch hole here, and it looked like there was a pretty good lip on there. Not quite 1 inch, but I'm guessing 3/4. So I came over 3/4 of an inch and 1/2 of the 3/4 is 3/8, so 1 1/8. Came down and over 1 1/8 because it's square in this area here by the bolt, I could tell. Now this bolt is up farther. It's still the same distance from the edge as this one, but it's up farther. So the material that I'm using for the ratchet part is 2.5. So I came over 2.5 and then plus another 3/8. I just went with 3, so I'm 1/8 inch over. So it looks like, because on his picture, it looks like this is all wore out, or they're using this for the rest. The ratchet part has 2 pieces of material, one on top and one on the bottom. So it just kind of slides back and forth on here. So that's why I came up. So now I'm gonna have my buddy drill these out, 3/4 inch on these two, 5/8 on these two. Then I'll get it up and bolt it in, take this apart, obviously, bolt it all together, and then kind of see where I'm at on things. So, plate is on, went pretty good. It was like a 16th, 32nd off maybe. A little sparkles, I just hogged that hole out a little bit. Now there's 2 pieces of 1/4 inch plate that go on here. From what I can see in the video, it looks like it's about 4 inches longer than this. So it bolts to these 2 bolts. Sticks out here a couple of inches. There's a hole out here. There's a hole that lines up with this one, and there's another hole here, so you can move that ram back and forth. So this depth here, this thickness here is pretty big, but what he had done is like that gold piece there, I can take that and cut the height to match whatever it needs to be, and then I'll open that hole up to 5/8 and maybe reshape that or come up with a new one or do something, but I could probably use that. I'll just open that hole up to 5/8, I'll grind it round on the end and make the length of that to fit this dimension here. So now I'm just gonna make these two, just get them bolted up and move on to the next thing. So like that. This is 5x10. Again, it's 1/4 inch. I have about 1.5 inches clearance from the edge of the bolt hole to this handle part that'll stay on here. You want to leave this handle in because you don't want to just do hydraulics. You can do some stuff you can use the handle for. So leaving that on. It might be a little excessive. I'll just be worried about twisting and racking, which I don't understand. So I'm going off of what I see on their video. This is 3/4 inch plate, obviously for a reason, because this was 3/4 inch spacing. I got 1/2 inch ratchet bar going on here. I got a 3/8, looks like 3/8, I don't know, pivot arm on here, and it's pushing on 1/4 inch plate with 5/8. This is 3/4, this is 3/4. All the hydraulic stuff, the two holes down here are 5/8 and 5/8. So I don't know, who knows? We'll just bend on it. See, I don't think it's gonna take that much pressure, honestly. I'm not gonna run anything that big. 1/5 chromoly is about as big as I'm gonna run in this. So it should be plenty. I mean, it's marginal. I can almost like put, if 2 guys wanted to like really reef on it, we could do it. But I plan on building other cars, so just get it working right. So I'll work on this flat bar next. Gonna make the pivot arm. It's basically 2 pieces that are separated by the 3/4 inch that's on here. So I need a 3/4 inch space in between there. It has a piece of flat bar wrapped around the end that's welded on that holds everything in place. So, and it's just on that one end. So that'll be easy to do. And then the next is the ratchet bar part. So pivot arm next. All right, so I was discussing this with my buddy. We were going into this hole because it looked like that's what he was doing on the Hossfeld, but he ended up coming to this hole in the Hossfeld video. The only problem with these is there's not a whole lot of leverage, right? You're almost pushing straight shot. It's kind of a weird angle. This third hole, some of them have this third hole, some of them don't. The problem with moving it up here and having this extra material on here is this thing hits. Like I said, it could have gone round. So my buddy ended up shipping this piece to fit here, the original one. I think this is the original one. He might have made a new one, I don't know. He did it while I was gone. I was off to SEMA. So I just got back. So we're looking at this and we shortened this ram up a little bit. I might have missed, this is probably wrong. I got this, it's about halfway on, halfway off. I got about 1 inch on the back here. I could probably move this up a little bit, but I'm running into a situation where this is getting kind of long. We shortened this ram up, ends up being from hole to hole like 17 and a half. I'm gonna try to make this work. I'm gonna weld this hole up and move it back to here. I have plenty of area here for this to sit on. It's more of a guide than anything else as far as keeping it up and down. So I'm gonna move this hole back. That'll allow me to get this more square. If I was trying to do this hole here, we'd have some crazy angle. I could have made this plate longer, maybe, would have been better. But this is what I have, this is what I'm gonna use. So I'm gonna either probably just drill another hole, we'll see. I don't think I'll need to weld that up. So I'll drill another hole in here, get this back some so I can get this farther back. I have about maybe 3/4 of an inch overhang here, which will be fine. It'll just hold it into place. It's really just pushing against this pinhole. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll probably start working on an end here for this. Probably what I'm gonna do is, the way this ram is set up, it's 3/4 of an inch. I'm gonna do the same situation on the pole bar. I'm going to run 2 pieces, top and bottom here. But when I come to the end here, I'm just gonna put a plate. I'm gonna sandwich it over another piece of 3/4. So this will be like a 3/4 inch tab on both of these that stick out. It should be plenty strong. So I know it's hard to envision. I know it's hard for me to explain it to you, but I'm just gonna move forward with it and we'll see how it ends up. All right, learning as I go. So this is just for this ram. I have this ram, it was free. I'm trying to use it. There's probably a better way to do it, but this is what I'm doing. I just kind of went off of the video to try to just kind of guess on the measurements, which I think I'm pretty close, but there's going to be a little bit of a change here. So this doesn't need to line up with that curved piece. It was just aesthetics only. I'm going to weld these holes up I move everything out an inch. I'm going to weld this hole up and move it over an inch. That's obviously going to give me 2 inches, which will help the angle of the bar, the ratchet bar, in relationship to the end of this. Again, if I had a different ram that was round and had a longer tube on it, a long end on it, it would be better. But this is what I have. This is what I'm going to run. So I'm going to make this work. So weld up holes and drill new holes. All right, holes are removed. You can see the original hole here, yeah, kinda. So I came over 1 inch to center, and then 7 11/16, because that bolt hole center is 6 11/16. Weird size, I know, not my deal. Just doing what they did. Brought this over. You can see the original hole came over 2 inches. So I probably gained a little over 2 inches, probably 2 1/8, 2 1/4. So I'm gonna put these on here and see where we're at. So I'm messing around with this and think I'm getting close. This is pretty good. This will work. My buddy right now is making a piece that's 7/8. This is 3/4. I need this to be big enough to slide back and forth on here. So I put a gap in here, but it's cheesy. So my buddy's making 2 pieces, 7/8 by 3. It's good. So this is 3 inches long, 2 inches wide. This is 2.5. But I'm going to scooch this over a little bit because I made this piece here. It's going to be for the pivot arm, and it slides in here like this, and it's going to be tight, but it'll work. When I move this over a 1/2 inch, this will be able to go in some more. So I'm going to have this long here, so I'm going to bring the flat bar, sandwich flat bar on here, and weld this into the 2 pieces that are going to go to here. So I'm looking at about 21 inches, I think, to the pivot, so I'm going to go 22. I'm going to get 2 pieces of this 2 by 3/8, kind of 22 inches long, drill 2 3/4 inch holes in them, and tack it together and see if I can't run it through the cycle. That's next. All right, I got a little ahead of myself. I cut these pieces 22, like we said, 22. I came in 1.25 inches, drilled the holes. That gives me an inch, at least close to an inch of meat here. I went to go ahead and like see how they were going to go on and all of that, and then I realized that there is actually a strap. I remember there's a strap that goes over this piece that holds this piece. On the piece that they make, it comes and it spreads and goes over the top of these. Obviously, I'm going to go, like we talked about, I'm going to go inside here. So I didn't make the strap on here. I already drilled those holes. There's no way for me to line those back up. So I'm going to, so on the strap here, a couple of things. It has to be big enough to, when it pivots, it won't interfere with anything. I can cut this corner a little bit, but I got to make it so it'll come around. Plus, it can't be too big to interfere with this thing. So that's something to keep in mind. So I already drilled these holes. So what I'm going to do on this is going to be the end that goes in the arm itself over there on the slides inside. I'll be able to plug weld these in here. I'll make it stronger. So I'll weld both sides, weld it all the way around, plug weld in there, clean them up. It'll look good. So now I'm going to have these are the 7/8 blocks my buddy made for the ratchet part. I'm just going to use these for the spacing on this. I'm just going to clamp these together. I'll square up this end. I'll run a strap up and over. It's not too long. Weld it all up, then I'll be able to drill the holes through there. It's going to be double thickness, as well as it'll make it nice and straight. I'll leave this block in there while I drill it so it doesn't flex. I'll get a nice straight hole in there that'll line up perfectly with the other part. So clamp together, make a strap like that. Happy. There's plenty of room here, plenty of play. I made a pin out of some 3/4 inch coal roll or hot roll that I had. Looks like coal roll. And some 1 inch pipe or tube. I don't know what that is. But anyway, just welded the end on. So that'll work in there. Now I got to move on to this end. I thought this was going to work. It was a piece that I had left over from another part that I changed my mind on. It's 3/4 inch. It needs to be 7/8, but I put a gap between this piece and these pieces to make that 7/8 kind of cheesy. But it's not going to work anyway because it's not long enough. I need this hole, which as you can just see peeking through. I need the hole in the center, so it needs to be quite a bit longer. I can run it long. Don't want to run it too long because then it starts interfering with this bracket here. So what I'm going to do next, what I have to do next is I'll get 2 pieces of this 2 by 3/8 flat bar that are probably 5 feet long. It's going to be too long, but I can work on that later. Better too long than too short. I'll tack these pieces in each end, and then I'll be able to run it through the cycle and see how it's going to work with this pivot point where it needs to be and be able to cycle the ram and all that. So making these next. So I have enough material for 4'7", which should be enough. So the plan is I'm gonna start with this hole here. This is all the way up against here. This is this way as it can go. That'll allow this to come all the way over. It can go, and then give better leverage for the start. If I can get this over as far as I can. So I'll probably put this in here crooked like this, so it runs along this piece of flat bar here. So I'm gonna drill I'm gonna drill a hole 4 inches in on the end of this flat bar. This is gonna be, that's what's gonna determine everything else. It's gonna be long enough to where I can move this around in and out and place this. So once this is fixed and it's here, and this is where it's gonna stay, then I can move this around, get it in, tack it. So I'm gonna drill these holes at 4 and a half, 4, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And then I'll tack the end together and clamp this end down here so we can move it. We'll do that next. All right, first setback. I see now why they don't have this inside here. We're getting a bind bad. So if the arms were longer, so probably what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some 2-inch. I'm gonna just run it along here and I'll cut these back so it won't be any interference. So it'll be like a piece on top. I'll probably end this one here and then come on out with those. I'll probably try to swing it and see where I'm at, but if I cut way back here, I should be fine. Like I said, I'll just come on top. I think I can just lay a piece on top of here. But yeah, this is not gonna work, which makes me sad. But it's no big deal. This is to work, this is to work. I just gotta adjust this. It's all about adjustments, kids. Solved. I got plenty of room here. This is, I'll button up against here, so I'm limited on this. I'm right at 90 or a little past 90 on this particular setup, but when I can move this ram over and get past 90. This will probably get me at 90, but you know, there's always spring back. I'm getting close here. Obviously I'm gonna cut this off, but that's no big deal. This would be good. And if I do move this over, then I'll make that fit better. But I think I'm maxed out as far as the ratcheting part goes. I think that length on that arm's gonna be good. I'm glad I left it that long. So what I'm gonna do now is, while this is together, I'm gonna straighten these up, line this all up, and tack it while it's on here, just so the pin spins free now. If I try to do it off the bench, I'm afraid it'll get askew or whatever. So I know it works now, so I'll just tap everything around, get it lined up, put a couple fat tacks, and take it off and be able to fully weld it. And then I think I'm pretty close, and then just figure out the ratchet part. Trimmed up, tacked up, ready to go. This piece ran long, these pieces ran long, and this ran long. Trim these up, got it squared up in there, beveled the edges, put some fat tacks, did the same thing down here. Now I'm trying to work my way through the ratchet situation. So what I did was I put this in the full park position. I fully extended the ram. I made a mark on this, I guess it's the degree wheel, tells you how far you bent. Put a piece of 1/4-inch material in there and clamped these together so it wouldn't move. And I brought this around, sucked the ram back up, found the next location where it was gonna start from. Ended up right around here. I made a mark a 1/4-inch past the hole to give myself a little bit of love to be able to move that in and out. Then I repeated the same situation. I extended the ram, found the next location, clamped it down, brought this all around, made another mark and another mark. These are my 3 marks. These are the 3 marks that I'm gonna put in there. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a 3/4-inch hole, just this side. I'm gonna measure over 3/8 of an inch from this mark. I'll come in this far enough to, get a full cut in there. Then I'll cut this edge a little bit and I'll put like a little angle on here. So it'll be just like a little 3/4-inch pocket in there. The question now is how to do it. How do I cut this apart and stack the two? Do I try to maybe get a piece of wood in there or a piece of aluminum or something that I can drill them both at the same time and try to keep everything all straight and square? That's the decision that I'm gonna make here in a little bit, but that's what's gonna be next are the notches. And then after that, hydraulics. So my buddy down here, he's got I just put in a hydraulic press that he built. And the hydraulic unit is kind of independent, it just kind of sits on top of this press. So we're gonna take that down and bring it down here and use it. So that'd be cool. So yeah, next notches, and then we'll see if this sucker works. Notches are done. It worked out good. I just put a spacer in there and drilled all the way through, so it worked out good. I'm gonna have to do something with this pin. Looks like on their website or on their YouTube page, there's like they put like a pin in here, maybe a 3/8 piece of cold roll or something, along with this pin. It's just a flat plate that rides on here. This pin just keeps it together, right? It's because if you use this pin, every time you moved it, you would have to either put it back in because it would fall like that and you'd be screwed. So you want a big enough plate on here to where you can move this in and out and not worry about that pin falling, and this other pin will keep it located. So I'll do that next. So I clamped this tight so I get a reference on here. I'm getting about 105 degrees, which I hope is enough to do a 90 with the snapback. I'm not sure how far you have to go past 90 to get past that snapback. So I should be able to get 90 out of this. I probably won't do any 90s on the Falcon. I don't anticipate doing any 90s, but you got to be able to do a 90, right? Also, too, I don't know what's going to happen when I change tubing size, although I'm not really going to do any of the bending with this thing other than maybe some smaller tubing, which I can do by hand. This will probably be the largest tube that I use, and this will probably be the only reason I would use this hydraulics. But, you know, never say never. So you got to go at least 90. I'll know when I've finished bending this piece to get the test bend for the bending software. So now hook up the hydraulics and see if this thing actually works. I think the last thing to make is this pin holder here. Like I said earlier in this video, I can't have this with this shoulder on here because every time I took it, it would flop down. I have to lift it up and move it, lift it up and get it in this slot. So I need something that's going to hold this pin in place and not, you know, get wider like this. So I'm making this, they have something similar to this on the YouTube page. I'm going to, so this right here is the farthest out it's going to go. This is the most angle, it's the farthest out it'll go. So I'm going to run this piece of flat bar this long, this is 1.25 quarter wall. So I'm gonna drill a hole, 3/4 inch hole, and plug weld the top so that the inside is smooth, so that it won't interfere with this edge or how this slots in here. So this is nice and smooth on the bottom, plug weld on the top. Same thing with this one. This here is gonna locate this thing just to keep it from spinning around and being weird. I'm gonna drill it here. When I close this all the way down, this is at a slight angle, so I'm gonna match that angle on this piece. Also too, I'm going to have this shoulder on here, and the height I'm going to cut it at is this dimension here, so almost 3/4 inch. So I'm going to, or actually a little less, I need room for plug weld. So I'm going to drill a hole in this and plug weld in there as well. And what that'll do, that'll hold this piece flat and straight and keep it from moving around. And then with this thinner material, so you can see the pin, so you can lock it. If it was any bigger, it'd be kind of hard to just slide into place. Hopefully it will snap into place. I'm going to do that next. Okay, getting there. Some changes. I added 3 more notches in between. Between these 3 holes, that one set of notches wasn't going to work. So I got these 3 holes now. I got these 6 notches. There shouldn't be a situation where it shouldn't be able to grab some metal. I put a tab on here to catch this thing to keep it from falling off. That was an issue. It was wanting to slide off, especially if I'm doing this by myself. I put a handle on here in the place of the pin. So, because there's a pinch point here. If I'm holding on this and it gets closed accidentally, don't ask me how I know. I made this little stand here, this little leg for this thing to sit on, so we don't have to hold it. And I set it up so that when I pull it this way, it goes that way. When I pull it that way, it goes that way. So I already bent the piece of tubing that I'd started to bend for the sample piece. It kinked like bad. The tab fell off, so I think it was pulling the tube. I'm hoping that was the case. So I pulled this off, I cleaned it up, I lubed the heck out of it. I got this tack on here nice and hard. I'm gonna try to bend it and see, hopefully it works. Hopefully it doesn't kink the tube. If not, I'm gonna have to drop back a punt, but at least my bender will be working. So let's see what it does. causing it to do that, but that is not going to fly. Shut. Damn it. All right. So the tubing bender works. I got that part done. Now I just got to figure out why that tubing is collapsing, what I'm going to do about it. So I'm going to end this video here. If you like the video, subscribe, check my Instagram, and come back and see if I can make a roll cage with this thing. Catch you on the next one.